Hi, pre-calc. We are going to go over some of the review problems from 6.1, 6.2, 6.8. So it's trig functions, but dealing with radians and also that dimensional analysis. So we're going to start out with just page 1, some of the problems. We won't do all of them. Okay, so if we look at number 2, so we are changing degrees to radians. So whether we're changing degrees to radians or radians to degrees, what we want to think about is this proportion. 180, half a circle in degrees is 180, half a circle in radian is pi. So I can take that negative 140 and I'm going to put it over 180 because I put degrees over degrees, radians over radians, and I want to know what those radians are. So it's x over pi. I'm then going to cross multiply, so I'll go 180 times x equals negative 140 times pi. Divide both sides by 180. And then we're just going to reduce that fraction. So I might just start with dividing top and bottom by 10. And then I can see I can divide the top and bottom by 2. So I end up with negative 7 over 9. And of course it's pi. Okay? So that was all number 2. I'm giving myself plenty of space for this. Okay, let's look at changing radians to degrees. So we still use the same proportion. I'm going to put 180 here and pi here. Radians, I put radians over radians, and I want to know how many degrees. So we'll go ahead and cross multiply just like we did before. X times pi equals, oh, you know what? I don't want to do that. This is what I want to do. Before I cross multiply, do you see how there's a pi over pi on the right fraction? Let's get rid of that. Pi in the numerator over pi in the denominator. So those will cross off, and then you can see on the right side, I'm left with 5 over 12. We'll cross multiply here. 12 times x equals 5 times 180. And if I do 5 times 180 divided by 12, I should get 75. Okay. I'll do one more here. 180 and pi. I'll try to remember to get rid of the pi first here. So I put radians over radians. How many degrees over 180? And again, this pi here over this pi is going to cross off. And we're left with negative 7 over 6. So I again cross multiply. And in the end, I end up with negative 7 times 180 divided by 6, and I get negative 210. All right, luckily I'm not doing all the problems here. So if you want to see other problems again, you can look at the answer key. They're fully worked out there. And of course, if you still need more help, definitely ask your teacher. Okay, so here we're looking for the exact value of a function. By exact value, we mean 1 over 2, or square root of 3 over 2, or 1 over square root of 2. But the difference between this and the last unit we did is with these, we're given radians instead of degrees. So we want to try as much as possible to think in radians. I'm going to put 0 here, pi here. Remember, this is pi over 2. And if I want to know about where 5, 6 pi is, you know, if I think this is 0 and this is 1 pi, 5, 6 is maybe somewhere around here. Doesn't have to be exact, you know, basically just more or less in the same quadrant. Now the thing is, what is the reference angle? The reference angle is the difference between 5, 6 and pi. 5, 6, pi is the same as 6, 6 pi, right? 6 over 6 is just 1 pi. So how far is it from 5, 6 to 1, 6? Pi over 6 is the reference angle, okay? Pi over 6 is the reference angle. Now, honestly, I usually think, I just go back to thinking in degrees at that point. Your reference angles are going to be 30, 45, or 60. Pi over 6 is going to give you a reference angle of 30. Pi over 3, because the top part divided by thirds is 60. The top part divided in fourths, 180 divided by 4, is 45. So if I see pi over 6, I know this reference angle is going to be 30. And if I know that's 30, I'm going to label my sides. Across from 30 is 1. The hypotenuse is 2, and this is going to be square root of 3. And then just don't forget, if we're going left, that has to be negative square root of 3. Up is positive 1. Hypotenuse is always positive. I label my O, H, and A. And finally, go back up here. Because I want the sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So the opposite is 1, hypotenuse is 2. So all that work for 1 over 2. Okay, let's look at number 8. So number 8 is pi over 2. So if we kind of move around here, this is 0, this is pi. Pi over 2 is the same as 90 degrees. So this is one that is on the x-axis, y-axis. So if we remember these, we go right 1, down, or left 1, up 1, down 1. I don't necessarily have to label all these because the only one I care about is the one right here. Now, when it's on the line, I have to remember that cosine is equal to the x value, sine is equal to the y value, and tan is y over x. Then anything else is just the reciprocal. Okay, so if it's the cosecant is related to sine, so I would just do 1 over whatever the sine is. We'll try one of those in a little bit here. But here we're just looking for the cosine, and I know the cosine is just my x value. So this here is the cosine, which is 0. So my answer is just 0. We're going to go to number 9. I'm going to erase some of this here. And again, you can look at the answer key. They're all worked out, but I'm just going to give myself a little bit more room. I'm going to make 9 a little bigger. So when I look at this one, it's negative radians, and that means it's not between 0 and 2 pi. So just like I can find coterminal angles by adding 360, I can add coterminal angles by adding multiples of 2 pi. Well, if I want 2 pi with a denominator of 3, 2 is the same as 6 over 3. So now this is coterminal with 2 pi over 3. And that's going to be easier to draw than negative 4/3. So if this is 0 and this is pi, where would 2/3 be? Well, 2/3 of the way is something like this. 2/3 of the way to pi. So the difference between 2/3 and 3/3 is 1/3 pi. So the reference angle here is 1/3 pi, which is the same as 60. So you can put pi over 3 in the corner, but if you want to put 60 and kind of do it like you were doing before, that's fine. So across from 60, or pi over 3, is square root of 3. Hypotenuse is 2. this is 1. Just going to get rid of some of this here while we're working it out. This is -1. Then we go up square root of 3. So I think we've labeled everything okay. Again, we'll label our sides. This was a sign problem once again. So it was O over H. The O is square root of 3. The H is 2. All right, let's look at number 10 here. So once again, number 10 is not between 0 and 2 pi. So I'm going to find the coterminal angle by minusing 2 pi. 8 over 4 is the same as 2. So now this, 9 minus 8, is pi over 4. So again, if we're going from 0 to pi, 1/4 pi is 1/4 of the way, right? If this is all the way to pi, 1/4 of the way is right here. So this is where 1/4 pi is, which is equivalent to 45 degrees. Across from 45 degrees, remember this is a 1 square root of 2. This is the opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent. Cosine is A over H. The A is 1. The H is square root of 2. And you can leave it like that if you multiply the top by square root of 2 and the bottom by square root of 2. Square root of 2 over square root of 2 times square root of 2 is 2. So either one is just fine. Okay, we're going to hop to number 12. This time we have the tan. Once again, this is not between 0 and 2 pi. So I'm going to minus 2 pi. 17 minus 6 is 11. Nope, that doesn't cut it. If we minus 6 again, we get 5/3 pi. 5/3, that's 1 2/3, is less than 2. So that's much easier to find. So 5/3, remember this is 1.5. So this is 1 pi. And then 1 2/3, 2/3 of the way on the bottom half there, takes us here. So if this is 5 pi over 3, and this is the same as 6 pi over 3, what is the difference between 6 over 3 and 5 over 3? The reference angle is pi over 3. And remember, pi over 3 is the same as 60 degrees. Okay, it's equivalent to 60 degrees. So across from 60 is square root of 3. That's a 2. That's a 1. If we go right 1, that's a positive 1. Down square root of 3, that's negative. Hypotenuse is always positive. So tan is O over A. The O is negative square root of 3. The A is 1. And anything over 1 is just the number itself. Okay, one last one on the front page, number 14, is a reciprocal value, and it's at 2 pi. So that is between 0 and 2 pi. It's right at 2 pi. Right, so that goes, I shouldn't write that as a point though. I'll do 0, 2 pi, but it's on the circle. This is one that's on the circle. So this is 1, 0. This is -1, 0. 0, 1. Again, you don't have to do all these. Sometimes I just do them all. But we want to know what is the cosecant at 2 pi. So right there. Now remember, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So the reciprocal of sine, you know, if it were a triangle, instead of OH, we would do HO. But this is not a triangle. So we have to find the sine value and then put it 1 over that sine value. Remember, 1 is the cosine the sign value is actually 0. And anything over 0 is undefined. Okay, so that's the end of the first page. In the next video, we'll talk about the second page of the review.